Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit, and we're going to sing together hymn 213. There's a wildness in your mercy, hymn 213.
There's a wideness in your mercy, like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in your justice, which is more than liberty. But we make your love too narrow by false limits of our own, and we magnify your strictness with a zeal you will not own. For the love of God is broader than the measures of our minds, and the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. Thank you.
Good morning,
Good morning.
and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, a liberal religious community founded in 1865. I am Barbara Lynn, one of this congregation's lay worship leaders, and it is my honor and pleasure to greet you this morning and invite you into our circle of belonging where all are welcome. Whether you are here with us in person or joining us online, we are glad that you are with us. For those of you joining us for the first time, we extend a special welcome to you. And if you are live streaming this morning, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat so others may greet you. And please consider filling out our newcomer survey at UUAA.org/newcomersurvey so we can get to know you better. And if you are here in the sanctuary, I invite you to a newcomer welcome to be held after the service in the Redmond Room. And the Redmond Room is through these double doors and to your left as you enter the hallway. And there, friendly volunteers will greet you and answer your questions about our faith and this congregation. I have a special announcement to share with you. In the face of growing environmental, political, and economic ills threatening our world, our senior minister, Reverend Manish, is offering a year-long monthly seminar to explore the question, who do we choose to be? The group will meet by Zoom one Wednesday evening per month beginning in September. And to learn more about this opportunity to create community and engage in reflection around the needs of our time, please visit UUAA.org/who-do-we-choose-to-be. And please note that there is a hyphen separating each of the words in who do we choose to be. And registration is now open. And now, as we move more deeply into our time together, I invite you to consider how you came to be here. Some of us, the lucky ones, were raised in this faith, while the rest of us come from other faith traditions, or none at all. And while our stories differ, it is a sad fact that a number of us were wounded by the religion of our upbringing. Ours is a faith of radical welcome, a safe haven for those fleeing the hurts and indignities of the rigid, judgmental teachings of their childhood. If this is your story, please know that you are welcome here among us, that you are loved and cherished exactly as you are. Come, let us offer each other the healing embrace of kinship. We are gathered in community. We are gathered for worship.
All across the nation, and indeed the world, Unitarian Universalists are gathering at this very moment. There are people gathering in living rooms to share coffee and reflections on the week. There are folks gathering in white clapboard buildings with clear glass windows. There are people who are incarcerated, reading materials from the Church of the Larger Fellowship alone in their cells right now. This morning, we join with Unitarian Universalists in each of these settings and more. We are different, we are the same. We are Unitarian Universalists, and we are united in our differences. One of the symbols of our faith's commitment to unity and diversity is our flaming chalice. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Lee Robertson. If you're joining us remotely, I invite you to light a chalice as well, either literally or metaphorically, and add in the chat box where you are lighting that chalice. Whether you are here in the sanctuary, joining remotely, or watching this some other time, I invite you to join in our chalice lighting words. Well, this is fun for my first time leading a service, isn't it? All right, there we are. Here we go together. We light this chalice in the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Lee. What holds Unitarian Universalists together in our beautiful diversity is not a shared set of beliefs, but a shared set of aspirations that is called a covenant. A covenant is a roadmap for how we plan to treat one another. Our congregation reaffirms our covenant each week when we gather for worship. I invite you to join in doing so soon now. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
All of us have felt alone. All of us have felt different. All of us have experienced the fear of being ourselves, only to be rejected. Being excluded, made to feel like an outsider, that sense of powerlessness, it hurts. So what do we do with that hurt? Well, sometimes when an opportunity to take back control presents itself to us, we grab onto it, even if that means we hurt others. We are all vulnerable to the temptation to wield power over someone else when we feel like we've lost control. When I was in middle school, I often felt like an outsider. I was definitely on the margins of the social scene. Thankfully, I had a small friend group of nerdy bookworms that made me feel safe and accepted. I remember one day at lunch, there was a girl hovering around my little group, and I could tell she wanted to join us. Rather than extend an invitation to her, which would have been so easy to do, I impulsively told her she couldn't play with us. Instantly, I felt a dreadful sensation seep through every inch of my body. Even retelling the story, I'm sort of having that same physical feeling in my body. That deep shame and regret, it just overwhelmed me. I will never forget the look on her face, contorted with hurt and rejection. There was no hiding from what I had done, on purpose. Up until that moment, I hadn't really seen her as a person that deserved respect and dignity. My cruelty not only served to humanize her, it reduced me to a bully. It felt awful. I didn't want to be that person. I wish that I could tell you all about my courageous apology, but I wasn't strong or mature enough then to make real amends. I've held that experience very close to my heart. The memory helps me understand at a deep level that when we fail to offer love and safe haven to everyone, we diminish our own humanity. Our story for all ages this morning teaches us that we can only be our best, truest selves if we commit to full-throated, courageous, radical welcome. Nerdy Birdie, written by Aaron Reynolds, illustrated by Matt Davies. This is Nerdy Birdie. This is Nerdy Birdie. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. He's allergic to birdseed. When all the other birds are hanging out together at the bird feeder, Nerdy Birdie is scrounging for breadcrumbs. Eagles, cardinals, and robins are the cool birdies. Eagles have wind tunnel tested head shape, abs of steel, and impressively sculpted chest muscles. Cardinals have a glossy red pompadour, a glossy red attire, and they also have a glossy red tail. Robins have beady eyes with superior worm vision, a worm-fed physique, and feet, nothing to do with worms. 3 things eagle is good at. Number 1, hunting. Number 2, fishing. And number 3, football. 3 things cardinal is good at. Number 1, singing like a rock star. Number 2, posing. And number 3, attracting fans. 3 things robin is good at. Number 1, picking on worms. Number 2, insulting worms. Number 3, eating worms. 3 things Nerdy Birdie is good at. Number 1, reading. A Philosopher's Guide to Wormholes and Time Travel from the author of Worm and Peace. Number 2, playing video games. And number 3, reading about video games, maximizing your angry worm's scoring prowess. Eagles, cardinals, and robins don't care about reading. Hey guys, I just read the coolest book. Who cares? Bookworm. I eat bookworms for breakfast. Or video games. Hey guys, I just defeated the Earthworm King in World of Wormcraft. Who cares? Nerd. I eat real earthworms, not digital ones. One day, Eagle flew off to hunt. Cardinal flew off to impress fans. Robin flew off to terrorize worms. And Nerdy Birdie was alone. One thing was clear. It was awfully lonely not being a cool birdie. Why do you hang around with them? They don't even like you. But they're so cool, said Nerdy Birdie. Trying to be cool is exhausting, said the new bird. You should hang around with us. Us? Us. After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie. Their glasses were too big. Their wings were too small. At least half of them had birdseed allergies. They all liked to read, and most of them liked to play World of Wormcraft. They were exactly like Nerdy Birdie. And then he realized something. There were way more nerdy birdies than cool birdies, and now they were all his friends. Eagle didn't have any friends. Eagle hunted alone. Cardinal was always showing off. He had no friends. Know why? Because he was always showing off. Robin was too obsessed with worms to make friends. One thing was clear. It was awful lonely being a cool birdie. But then a new bird moved into the neighborhood. The cool birds were unimpressed. Hey guys. She gives me the creeps. Why does she always wear black? It's so depressing. She eats what? The cool birdies flew away and left Vulture alone. Why would you want to hang around them? Being cool is exhausting. You should hang around with us. Us? Us. After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie. Right, guys? Hold it. Where are her glasses? Where is her lightsaber? And have you heard what she eats? Ugh! She is most definitely not one of us. Nerdy Birdie was confused, but there's always room for another nerdy birdie, right? That's the problem. She's not a nerdy birdie. She's just weird. Nerdy Birdie looked at his flock of friends. The telephone wire was packed with them. He looked at the new bird, sitting there alone. And one thing was clear. It was awful lonely being alone. This is Nerdy Birdie. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. This is Vulture. She wears contact lenses. Her wings are enormous. Vulture eats dead things. Nerdy Birdie does not. Nerdy Birdie likes video games. Vulture does not. Nerdy Birdie and Vulture don't like all the same things, but they really like each other. If you ever need a friend, you can hang around with them. After all, there's always room for another birdie. Hi! The end. And now is the time in our service when we sing to our children as they head to their programs. I invite all of the young people who'd like to join me to follow me to the Foz Chapel as the congregation sings with love and tenderness.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine.
Within our denomination, our congregation is justly celebrated for its far-reaching social justice work. Many groups contribute to the beautiful tapestry of love and action we are creating together. This month, our social justice connection features Unitarian Universalists for Justice in the Middle East, a group that studies and confronts the painful history of that region, seeking to learn, explore, and advocate for peace. Given the horrors now engulfing Israel-Palestine, the need for peace and justice has never been greater. Ruth Vail, co-chair of UUJME, is here to update us on the group's work during this harrowing time. And joining Ruth is Anne Remp, filling in for Mark Jagner. Please give them your warmest welcome.
Hi. Just as filling in on the latest developments and reminding you who we are the Ann Arbor Justice in the Middle East Committee, one of 34 chapters of congregations across the country working to inform our community about the situation in Israel-Palestine and to advocate for U.S. Middle East policies that prioritize human rights. In doing this work, we must let go of the idea that one side has to dominate the other in order to have freedom and security. Too often, supporters of the Jewish homeland in Israel-Palestine ignore the injustices, human rights violations, and suffering of the Palestinian people, while advocates of Palestinian rights ignore the historical trauma and concerns of the global Jewish community. Founded in 1971, the National UUJME organization provides educational programs, leads delegations to Palestine, Israel, and is active at General Assemblies. General Assembly, or GA, is the annual business meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Last month, GA delegates approved an action of immediate witness, or AIW, titled Solidarity with Palestinians, by a vote of 74%. The AIW is a statement that calls us to take action on a significant concern in the world. The resolution was drafted by a coalition of 5 Unitarian Universalist justice groups. As the October 7th attack by Hamas has demonstrated, subjugating people with an iron fist cannot achieve peace and security, even for a superpower like Israel. 70% of people living in Gaza today are refugees whose villages were destroyed during the 1948 ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Israel has refused to allow them to return and rebuild their communities in violation of international law. Israel's military siege has deprived people of Gaza of access to sufficient water, food, fuel, and medicine for nearly 2 decades.
Good morning. To be clear, we condemn all acts of violence against civilians, regardless of whether they perpetuate injustice or fight against it. As we have seen from Israel's response, violence, even in the context of a struggle for freedom and liberation, rarely achieves its goals. In this moment, we are witnessing an unprecedented destruction of Palestinian communities. This is enabled by the U.S. government using weapons made in America and paid for with our tax dollars, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and inside Israel. Friends, we can no longer remain silent on Palestinian human rights. This is not a both sides conflict. Palestinians have endured 76 years of expulsions, massacres, and subjugations, while Jewish settlers took their homes, farms, and factories, building the state of Israel on stolen land. The solidarity with Palestinians, AIW, calls for an immediate permanent ceasefire in Gaza, massive increase in humanitarian aid, the release of captives, and an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. It also asks us to sign an apartheid-free communities pledge, to support boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel and corporate enablers, to protect the right to protest, and to oppose restrictions on free speech. In the coming months, we will engage our congregation in formulating actions that we can take in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. Please visit our table in the social hall today after today's worship service to learn more about what you can do personally to promote peace in Israel, Palestine, and to share your thoughts and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Anne. As we consider the many ways UUAA makes a difference in our own lives, our community, and across the world, let us remember that it is our own generosity that supports this work. The ritual of our weekly offering has at its heart the recognition that we ourselves are the sustaining engine of our dreams and visions. Our offering is a spiritual practice calling us deeper into community through our gifts. Today's offering will go to the programs and ministries of this congregation, and there are a number of ways for you to participate. You may text UUAA to 73256 or visit uuaa.org/giving and select weekly offering for the fund. Or you may fall back on the tried and true and drop cash or checks into the baskets as the ushers make their rounds. However you choose to give, thank you for your generosity. I invite the ushers to now come forward as this morning's offering is gratefully given and received. Thank you, Allison. Aren't we lucky? As our ushers now come forward, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as you are comfortably able. And let us speak with intention as together we say, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. You may be seated.
We have a reading this morning. This is titled, "To the People Who Have Mistaken Freedom for Liberation." It's by the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even when they try to take it from you. You must know, not that you can do whatever you want, for you are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know, instead, that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, it is a promise. It is such a joy to lead today's worship service. I hope that you might know who I am by this point, but just in case. I've been this congregation's acting coordinator of the membership journey since January. Now that is a long title that encompasses 3 main areas. Sunday morning welcome, so all the volunteers that make Sunday mornings run smoothly, we hope, membership, and communications. I have been so grateful to everyone who has answered questions, pointed me in the right direction, and volunteered in any of these areas. Now, listen, and I don't want anyone to feel left out. There are always plenty of volunteer opportunities. You can just visit the engagement table after the service to learn more or talk with me directly. That was a joke, just so we know, it was a joke. But in all seriousness, it is an honor to be leading us in worship over the next several weeks, actually. In this season of exploring, we will use the metaphor of a journey to think together about our congregation and our membership journey. The goal for today is to explore the long and winding road that has brought me here. So in order to do that, we'll have to go way back to the beginning. I grew up in a suburb of Houston in a family that was very deeply involved in church. I'll tell you briefly that my home life when I was a kid was a struggle. My dad was a Vietnam vet who was deeply traumatized by his experiences in that event, and he found relief primarily in a bottle. My mom had struggles with mental illness and addiction too. I'm not going to get into details today, but what's important for you to know is that my home was not a predictable place, but church was. When I was a kid, I took piano lessons at church and harp lessons, and I was in the handbell choir and the youth choir, and I played guitar at contemporary worship services. I taught younger kids in Sunday school. I worked in the nursery. I went to youth group. I was in the youth group's dinner theater. Okay, I was the lead in the youth group's dinner theater. I went on mission trips, and I led Youth Sunday, and I co-wrote the curriculum for half of our retreats, and I was widely teased my senior year for being grounded from church because it was the only thing from which my parents could ground me. It is an understatement to say that I was active in church. And looking back, it is obvious to me that I was so involved in church because it was an escape from my unpredictable home life. But I'm also clear that I was always very serious about my faith, and I knew from a young age that I had a call to ministry. In my senior year of high school, a lot of things happened at once. It was 1996, 1997, and a slate of celebrities had just come out as gay, and it became a focal point in my church. It was just like all anybody could talk about. And looking back with a heart of gratitude and a heart of generosity, I can realize now that my church's minister was younger than I am now, and he was trying to make a career for himself. So he seized on a cultural moment and he took a very hardline stance. That minister became the leader of a national movement to oppose the ordination of gays and lesbians, which was already against the denomination's rules. He was in Time magazine for this. And the other thing that happened was I started coming out, just kind of all at the same time. I came out to my parents by telling them that I thought that this minister was wrong for taking an anti-gay stance. I said, well, if someone is gay, that's kind of between them and God. And my parents asked if I thought that I was gay, and I said yes, and then my life changed a lot. At the time, I was teaching third graders in Sunday school, and my parents told me that I had to go see the minister because they did not think that an unrepentant sinner should be teaching the third graders. If they only knew what those kids were getting up to. What happened after that took a long time for me to figure out, and an even longer time for me to heal. The minister told me that I could stay involved in church, but I later realized that he also told all the staff and the lay leaders that I could not have any leadership roles at church. After I graduated from high school, I tried to stay involved while attending a local university, but I slowly began to realize that I was being pushed out. It took about a year for me to figure it out. People stopped telling me when things were happening. I was never asked to leave the church, but the place that had always been my safer home was now surrounded by an inexplicable wall of silence. I could not figure out how to get in. My early 20s were a period of intense deconstruction for me. My ideas about God began to shift and crumble. It started with that little toehold of, okay, all right, so if I'm gay, and God made me gay, then I can't be going to hell because God wouldn't make me this way to send me to hell. Carry the one. That doesn't make any sense, right? And if that's not true, then what else isn't true? And as the years and the questions rolled by, I found that I could no longer square my understanding of God or the divine with a mainline Protestant church. I just did not fit there anymore. So what then of my lifelong call to ministry? Well, I did the next best thing, and I pursued social work, which was a secular ministry for me in many, many ways. And while I was attending graduate school at the University of Texas at Austin, I took a job working at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin. They were looking for a nursery worker, and I had plenty of experience with that. Eventually, they needed a youth program coordinator, and guess what? I had experience with that too. After graduating, I took on full-time work in human service organizations, and then my spouse and I eventually moved to Massachusetts in order for them to pursue graduate-level education. By the time they finished their master's degree, something in me had shifted, and it was time for me to pursue a full-time call to ministry. And I meant going back to school myself. And there I was, in the birthplace of Unitarian Universalism with several theological schools to choose from. Now, over the intervening years, I had waffled back and forth quite a bit between Unitarian Universalism and progressive Christianity, but I was clear before classes began that I wanted to pursue Unitarian Universalist ministry. What has been a challenge for me in some UU spaces is the occasional experience of being expected to make some sort of grand statement denouncing Christianity. Especially in those early years, people assumed that the story of how I got to Unitarian Universalism would end with this dramatic parting from Christianity, followed by this conversion experience and realizing I had been wrong all those years. I hate to tell you that is not what happened. Instead, I've integrated those early experiences, the beautiful ones and the hard ones, and moved into a different church that gives me the freedom to follow my conscience. And perhaps that's a less satisfying story, but it's important after they give you the stole that you tell the truth. So that is how it went. And I do not at all begrudge those UUs who have vociferously rejected a Christian upbringing. But what's really, really important to me, beloveds, is that we as UUs don't cause harm to people by being unwelcoming and asking them to make themselves smaller for any reason. What I learned from my difficult coming out is that I do not need another person to mediate between me and God. There is not a part of me that is wrong. My spirituality cannot be separated from my sexuality or my intellect or my embodied experiences or my emotional life. I am just one me, whole and complete. And I will not diminish myself for the comfort of another. And if that's true about me, it's true about everybody. Our goal as UUs is to welcome people without asking them to check a part of themselves at the door. My break with mainline Christianity taught me the importance of welcome in religious spaces, and that has been the cornerstone of my ministry. I don't want to be made to feel like an other, and I don't want to put someone else in that role either. I am deeply, fiercely committed to our UU churches being a place where everyone is welcome. And when I say welcome, man, I mean welcome, like extravagant, radical welcome that embraces everybody. And then people go, but what about people who blah, blah, blah? People have inherent worth and dignity. Behaviors do not. We can all be here together as how we are when we are in covenant with one another, and we follow those aspirations for how we treat one another. That's what covenants are for. What I grew up with was not welcome, it was tolerance, and I hope, in all of the diversity of Unitarian Universalism, I hope that we can agree that nobody wants to be tolerated. It's true that nobody ever ran me out with a pitchfork. No one ever told me to leave, which frankly would have been kinder. They did not invite me into the life of the congregation in a meaningful way. It was like standing outside of a bakery and watching everybody eat this amazing, delicious, warm bread, and you can smell it, but the door's locked, and everyone pretends not to hear you knocking. Radical welcome, what we're trying to do here, says open the door, take the door off the hinges, take the bread out into the streets and shout it to the sky that this bread is for everyone. And it's vegan and it's gluten-free, but it's also still somehow delicious. And it multiplies as we share it because religious life is meant to be shared by everyone. And that is the type of welcome that we're trying to do here. And that is why I'm so excited about my work here. Everything that I do in my role as the acting coordinator of the membership journey is centered on welcome and connection, bringing people in deeper into true, authentic relationship. I've only been here a few months, but during that time, I have gotten to lead a sing-along with s'mores, thank you. I got to teach a session of Intro to Our Faith and hear how people fell in love with this community. And I'm getting to plan a ridiculous set of games for the UUAA Summer Olympics, which is coming up on August 16th. Don't miss it. And more, so much more. It's so fun, but it's so deep, and it's so important. There is a lot of good work going on here that helps people feel connected and to know that they are truly welcomed and indeed loved for being just who they are. And we're going to keep doing that work together in the years to come, trying to find ways to widen the circle constantly, trying to find ways to learn how to better extend that radical welcome, getting it massively wrong sometimes, apologizing, learning, and continuing on the road together. I am so grateful to you for trusting me to do this work, and I am so thankful to you for your partnership in doing it together. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Please rise and join in singing hymn number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Dear ones, I send you out now as messengers of peace and love and hope. Go forth and proclaim that all people are welcome here, that all of who you are is welcome here. Go with confidence that you are loved exactly as you are. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.